This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 259. This is the G Podcast. What's up, y'all? Yes. Delivering your weekly recap, news, politics, pop culture, that piping hot tea from the one and only Tonya B is in the building. Tonya B.
Hey.
Tonya B, what you got going on this week? Everything good?
Yeah, we're going to start cooking tomorrow. We're back to cooking.
Okay. Good stuff. That's it.
Well, you're ain't buying a house, but I don't know if anybody cares about that.
Oh, good stuff. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here, Tonya B. Vi, the Country Commentator, is in the building. Vi, what's up, man?
Not much, my brother.
How you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing great. Trying to recover from this Mardi Gras. Well, I tell you, you need to take a week off when you leave them things. Get great.
Dude.
Oh, so that's where you were.
Hey, by the way, how was the crowd? How was the crowd overall at Mardi Gras?
It was good. Had a nice crowd. It was great. It was great. I mean, very blackish.
Okay.
Blackish? Or was it kind of drunkish?
No, not drunkish. Not drunkish. I meant what I said about blackish.
Okay. All right, so black. That's what he said.
If you ain't interested in your black people, don't go to Mobile Mardi Gras.
I hear you. That sums it up. I appreciate you, Vi. Appreciate you, man.
But it's PG.
Right.
I got nothing to say bad about it. It was PG.
All right, well, good deal.
Okay.
Good deal. He is in the building, y'all. It's been a minute since he's been here, but y'all give it up for Howie Hitman Howard.
Alrighty. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for sitting in to leave us out this week. So what you got going on this week, Howard? What's up?
Hey man,
Howie?
you know me. I'm just trying to. I done tied a rope at the end of tied a knot to the end of the rope, and I'm just hanging on right now, brother.
I hear you. Make sure that knot is big and tight.
Right. That's the truth.
Cool, man. Cool. Thanks for coming in, man. We got a lot to talk about. I'm your host, Tommy B. The last of the proud Grady babies is in the building, y'all.
Grady,
as always, I am here. And before I get started, and we'll go ahead and do news. But I gotta say, man, happy International Women's Day to all the women out there today. Gotta say big thanks to Queen Sheba, Georgia Me, man, for coming in and helping us celebrate the first day of International Women's Month, and they're on episode 258. And man, thanks for coming in on a heartbeat, because a lot of these guys, I can just reach out to them. Boom, they're here. They support the podcast, and I haven't had a chance really to thank the guests and the folks who come in who've been helping out so far this year. We're having a good year, so I got to say thanks to Anthony R. Stewart. He's the author of By the Hand, By the Pen. So let me give it up for him. Yes. Protect Our History is one of our biggest shows of the year. Michelle of Yoga Moxie, again, one of our biggest audio shows of the year. Got to give it up to her. Not only is she a big listener and supporter of the podcast, her husband's about to retire from the police department. So she's like, hey, whenever you need some police commentary, hit him up and he'll be glad to come on. As always, Harold Michael Harvey, thank you so much. Yes. HMH was on for episode 252, King Day 2025. And of course, our very own Syracuse Mike, man, he drove through snow to get here to the podcast. So,
all right.
Yes, I got to give it to him, man. And I'm really, really thankful to have some of the best and brightest resources, man, who support the podcast, listen to the podcast. They share the podcast. I'm grateful to these folks, man, because it's, we don't beg. We don't send, all I got to do, we send a text out, we call, and these folks are here. And I just wanted to show appreciation and say thank you for the support, for the folks who are resources, man, to the podcast, who bring information. And even if they can't make it, they'll send me something and just say, hey, this is going on. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to talk about it. So big thanks to all those names and many more that I really have to say thanks to. So just wanted to do that. That's all. All right, let's go ahead and do news. We'll come back with Syracuse Mike. Here we go.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
R&B singer Angie Stone died over the weekend in a vehicle accident in Alabama. She was reportedly on her way to Atlanta. A representative for the singer confirmed that her vehicle was struck by an 18-wheeler and flipped 3 times. Stone was the only person who died in the accident. The Grammy-nominated singer was 63. According to a White House official, the U.S. has decided to pause military aid to Ukraine. That decision coming just days after President Trump argued with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office. Several news agencies are reporting that the pause will last until Mr. Trump decides that Ukraine's leaders have demonstrated a good faith commitment to peace. An unidentified official said this is not permanent termination of aid. It's a pause. He started by saying America is back at the beginning of his address to a joint session of Congress. President Trump used Tuesday's speech to frequently blame former President Biden for leaving him with problems that included the high price of eggs. Among his many topics, Mr. Trump pledged to replace reciprocal tariffs on countries that apply them to the U.S., and he promised to cut federal regulations.
To unshackle our economy, I have directed that for every 1 new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated, just like I did in my very successful first term.
Several Democrats walked out of the House chamber during Mr. Trump's speech. Many also wore black T-shirts with the word resist on the back. There were other visible protests as well, including by Representative Al Green of Texas, who shouted at the president and was removed from the chamber by the House Sergeant at Arms.
The chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
That was Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. The president's speech was very long, and we will have more on the address later. On the subject of tariffs, they went into effect Tuesday for Canada and Mexico. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had a message for his country, the citizens of the United States, and for President Trump hours after Canadian and Mexican goods were hit with 25% tariffs. That message from Trudeau for the president?
Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do. We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see.
The Prime Minister also announced retaliatory tariffs on U.S. exports and said his country would remain defiant. U.S. economists say consumer prices will likely go up. After pressure from the White House, Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser has confirmed that the Black Lives Matter Plaza will be removed and the Black Lives Matter ground mural will be painted over. The street was painted in response to the murder of George Floyd. There's no timeline for the change. The street art will be replaced with a design created by D.C. school children. Georgia Congressman Andrew Clyde from Athens, who represents the 9th Congressional District, introduced legislation that, if it had passed, would force Bowser to rename the plaza or lose federal funding. Mexico and Canada got some temporary relief in a new executive order from President Trump, who is now delaying tariffs on goods coming to the U.S. under the USMCA. That's the United States-Mexico-Canadian Agreement.
This is something that we have to do. There'll always be a little short-term interruption. I don't think it's going to be big, but the countries and companies that have been ripping us aren't particularly happy with what I'm doing.
This means goods from Mexico and Canada will be exempted from Mr. Trump's 25% tariffs for 1 month. The latest backpedaling is driving Wall Street crazy, to put it bluntly. As you probably know, the one thing the stock market craves is stability, or you can call it predictability. That's not happening, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down again by nearly 478 points Thursday. The broad S&P 500 index closed down 1.78% after hitting its lowest level since November.
And you know what? I got to say, I am starting to believe the conspiracy theories that the on-again, off-again tariffs are really meant to give his buddies in stock trading an upper hand. Because they know you can always, let's say you know when you're going to pull tariffs in and out, okay? So certain people might be getting that information ahead of time. So when the stock market starts to fall, guess what? They jump in and buy stock. I'm a big, yep, absolutely. And I tend to believe it's become unbelievable. The other thing is this Elon Musk thing, and Mike didn't get a chance to talk about it. And MAGA talking about Derek Chauvin being pardoned for federal crimes is just ridiculous. You know, we talked about this a little bit before, and I'll go to you, Howie. You'd mentioned that, you know, basically the local cannot be pardoned, of course, the state, but the national can.
Right.
But I think that's a huge mistake when it comes down to, you know, relitigating this whole Chauvin thing is just a massive mistake. PR-wise, I think it's going to rejuvenate BLM. You know, it would be stupid. But, you know, but go ahead. I'd love your thoughts, and I'll go around the table.
Yeah, but I agree. It's going to be a bad look. The optics are going to be really poor, but it's consistent. That's the one thing I'm seeing. I'm not sure if you remember the guy who in Texas who shot the guy in the black guy in a parade. He just everything in the courtroom said he shot that guy because he was African American, and yet the Texas governor pardoned him and he's out of jail. So all the people that align themselves with this ideology of Trumpism, it is extremely consistent to see them do or say these type of things. We have to stand up. I mean, we may not can say, we may not can prevent the pardon, but we have to have a voice in the message. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. Tonya B, any thoughts?
Exactly what you said, how we have to have a voice, and we have to have a voice now, not when it's too late.
Right.
Because then anything that's done will be for nothing. So if you see, it's like if you see somebody chasing behind you, what do? You break camp. You don't go, oh, well, maybe I'll stop here and we can have a discussion and he won't shoot me. No, you know, the revolution will not be televised. It's interesting how, you know, how things happen in cycles, and it's just like they want another uprising, and they want to, you know, I guess to, you know, just like 45, 47 tugs at the lowest common denominator of intelligence and number of teeth. They want to, you know, get us all riled up and talk about how we're animals and we do this and we do that and we destroy our own communities. Yeah. So, like, if we're going to, as a people, black, brown, grizzly, gray, whatever color you are, number one, it's got to be some organization about how you make effective change, number one. And number two, when you do it, don't tear up your own community.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's what they expect you or us, that's what they're expecting. So how about we split their wig and don't resort to violence, and we resort to action.
Right.
Yeah. So true. I'm gonna go to Vi. He's had a long week and a long night, so I'm gonna try to get him in here real quick before he passes out. Hey, so Vi, what are your thoughts, Vi? What are your thoughts?
Howard, we got to voice our opinion strongly and loud. We don't need to do no violence, but we got to be organized, like the boycotts we doing. Just voice our opinion loudly. Let it be known how we disapprove with it loudly. Don't do it quietly. Talk it loud, because they can't shut all of us up.
Yeah, so
and
true.
And continue going to court. We just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, don't be like the Democrats. Do it smart. I agree.
That's smart.
And I don't. I say that. I say.
Is that what you call them? The Democrats, they let somebody cut them off. Thank God for Al Green.
I got it. I'm gonna get to that, but I gotta say this, and I'm gonna have this in the politics side of it. The word is performative. That's all I have to say. That's your word of the week when it comes down to these guys. I'm gonna explain that a little bit later. One other thing I have to give a shout out to stateofthepeople.media. On Tuesday night, when the president was doing the so-called I call it state of lies.
Hello.
When he was, I didn't watch it, but I did watch stateofthepeople.media, 24 hours, offering an alternative. It was so good. I got to give, and I've got a clip that this brother Boykin did on his own on his social media. I want to play it for DEI. Hopefully we'll get to it at the end of the show, but man, the speakers, the guests, all that, man, it was just so powerful. I do have to say kudos to stateofthepeople.media. Roland Martin did his own thing too, I think the night of, but State of the Media was excellent. I hope they continue to do that, because they do it so much better than the Democratic Party when it comes down to messaging. All these folks are doing it so much better, and I'll leave it at that. The other thing, and I, I'm not split on this. I'm pretty hardcore when it comes down to this death at Southern. This young man, Caleb Williams, in Omega Sci-Fi, and I know that they will probably, as they always do, prosecute locally. But I'm here to tell you, this stuff is not going to stop until it hits the national chapters. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until they bankrupt the national chapters whenever this happens. And that means going after them in a litigious way. You go after the president on the national side, and you also hold the universities accountable. That's the only way it's going to stop, because just taking a chapter away doesn't do this young man justice at all, because they don't care. On the national level, as long as they don't get touched, as long as they can continue to do business as usual
and party
on these other and the parties on this other campus. Look, I don't take anything away from the need to do community service. I don't take that lightly, but I will say this is becoming Illuminati. This ain't fraternity. This is Illuminati. And they need to face it. People die. And then you hear, well, we'll hear it every now and then. It doesn't happen all the time. Any death, you don't hear white fraternities having people die and being hit in the chest.
But when they do, there are consequences.
Yes.
That's the difference.
So I gotta say.
At Georgia Tech. No, at Georgia Tech, there were consequences on that. So like you said, until you got to either hit them in their pocketbook. And I'm like, okay, why? I'm like, well, just when you said that, why hasn't? Is this whatever the party eternity is? I have yet to hear anybody on a national level for this fraternity say anything. And not to condone this. It's wrong whether you're black, white, green, or blue. It's wrong. But let's just say, when was the last time you heard about a sorority hazing and some young lady dying?
Yeah. Agreed.
And it's like these kids keep going too far. You talk about this brotherhood and all this whatnot, Mr. Goss. But so why are you killing your brother?
It's no longer. I'm just gonna say, and I want to go to Vi. I do want to go to Vi and get his thoughts, because I'm not gonna call you out, Vi, but you have experience, being a part of one. It's becoming Illuminati. It really is. And the reason I say that is because there's a difference between being fraternal and skull and crossbones like, secret society like, because people aren't benefiting. People are dying and things are happening that are counter to the point where you're losing the opportunity to be on campuses. So what do you think? Not for me, but I'm talking about losing opportunities for this fraternity to even get approved on many campuses. They can't even get approved on a lot of campuses across. And you know what? It doesn't just stop there with that fraternity. There's some fraternities that cannot get chapters on certain campuses based on their history on that campus or the ongoing, I guess you would say, controversies that exist. Go ahead, Vi.
Well, I don't think you should. National chapters, there are doing things about it. They have rules, they have regulation that they don't believe in hazing. They have rules, because you can't do it. You're not even allowed to haze anymore. That's why it was off campus. I mean, they only can control so much. I mean, like all the sororities and fraternities are totally against hazing. Basically, it's like now if you got the money to get in, you get in now. But you got some rogue chapters out there, and they are severely punished. Okay. Like the chapter at Tuskegee, like the Delta, they offer you off like 5 years. Wow. 5 years. And what they're doing, they do that to make sure anybody who's there on that campus cannot be a part of that chapter, because they want to literally eliminate anybody who had thoughts or participate in it to be gone. Like I said, national chapters of all fraternity and sorority does not believe in hazing. They got rules for it. You can't do it. It's literally illegal.
Wink, wink.
Well, like I said, you cannot control everybody. It's like your child.
Well, let me say this, Vi. Right. I want to go to Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get Howie's thoughts on this. If you can't control people dying, then you shouldn't have a fraternity. I'm going to say that right there, and I'm going to go to Howard.
Well, before we go, yeah, I agree. But
because this isn't military, this isn't war,
right? But I also think white chapters have their issues too, because when they die, it's usually they drunk themselves to death or drug themselves to death. So there are issues there. We may have an issue in a different way, but none of it is good when a person passes away or a person dies. So I agree with you. Something I don't know what you can do from a national level though. Why I agree with you, there should be some lawsuits or something going on. But it's really difficult to punish the national chapter when they have set the rules in place. Now, what do? If you kick them off campus, to your point, and they're gone for 5 years because you don't want anybody to be a part of that, that's great. But to go after the national chapter or to say a certain organization should not be a part of an international chapter, that's difficult. That's difficult to police.
I'm gonna say this. I want to be very clear. I want to be clear. I'm not specifically pointing out black and white.
Okay, got you.
Okay? I am specifically saying if you are a fraternity and you have a string of deaths occur in multiple chapters across the country, nationally, you're to be held accountable. And there are fraternities who we know of who have a reputation for people being hurt, maimed, people dying of alcohol poisoning, which you mentioned. Majority of those happen to not be like us.
Right.
But I will say, when you've got a string of it and you've got a history of it, we got to start thinking about whether or not, and I know a lot of people gonna be mad at me. Go ahead. My information's on social media. Go ahead, hit me up. But when you've got a history of it and it's blatant history, then you got to start looking at the national people. You got to start looking at the national chapter because somebody's not taking you seriously.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm gonna leave it at that because now I hope this young man's family goes after them for every penny because there's a borderline. Being fraternal and being Illuminati,
right,
which is nefarious.
Right.
It's becoming Illuminati.
It is.
I agree.
And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, Tonya B, you got anything else, Vi? You all right?
No,
So I got to check on Vi because Vi's about to pass out, y'all. If you see him,
I'm just saying nationals. It's just like
because he went to Mardi Gras.
To me,
So yeah, I get him a break.
to me like a child. You cannot watch your child 24 hours a day.
But you know what? Here's the deal. Here's the deal, Vi. You're not a child. You're an organization. You're a business. Let me say this. If you are Target, which we know what's going on with Target right now. If you are Target as a store and your stores across the country, people are being killed in these stores on a consistent basis, maimed, hurt, who's responsible? Target National.
Point taken.
Baker, what I'm saying, yeah. National, anytime somebody have National are here responsible, they just don't get a local check. National pays a heavy price for it every time.
But you know what? Apparently, National's not paying heavy enough price.
Yeah, what you call heavy enough? Just eliminate them altogether.
They're not. No, they're not.
You know what? You know what? Maybe
That's not going. That's not going.
I didn't say it.
What I'm saying, what I'm saying is
accountability.
There is accountability. My thing is, all they're going to do is create a club. You got clubs doing the same thing. But you know what?
If it's a club, then there's a difference between being a club and being a gang.
They're still doing the same thing.
If you are a Crip and a Blood, and people are dying in the streets, what's the difference?
No, Thomas, you're not associating the Divine Nine.
No.
Okay.
But
I just want to make sure I didn't get that reach. Okay.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because the Divine Nine had an intent and a purpose.
Right.
And we've moved from the purpose into this secret society, this Illuminati, where people are being harmed and killed. Right. There's a difference.
Okay.
And that's why I say there's a difference between being fraternal and being gang and being Illuminati. Does Illuminati have a positive connotation?
As from what I know, I say no. From what I know about
from what I know, no.
Yeah, I think it's just a long stretch to go from gangs
to
Divine Nine. Yeah.
But my point,
yeah.
and I gotta say that. I gotta say this one more time, Howard. When people are dying,
Right.
when people die based on punches to the chest,
That's too far. That's too far.
That's too far.
It's too far.
You cross the line.
I agree.
Right, and he's going to.
And this is 2025.
I agree.
We've got laws in place to protect these young men,
Yes,
based on this occurring that the nationals know about. So you can explain it away, and I'm not saying you.
Right.
I'm talking about people in general can always explain it away and point to the local chapter. But ultimately, the nationals have a responsibility to protect these young people in these campuses.
right. I agree.
And I get it. I get it. I'm not out to get all of them. Go ahead, Tonya B.
Look at it like this. Okay, you have, let's just say for ish and giggles, you got the Catholic Church, you got the Boy Scouts. When those local leaders and those local priests violate those young boys, who pays the price? Who has to answer for it? The diocese for the priest and the national chapter or the national director for the Boy Scout. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then hold on. Let's turn the table here. What if that young Caleb was your son, nephew, godson? Would you be pissed? Absolutely. I don't even have chick, child, dog, no husband, and I'm pissed because there's some mother and father who's lost their son. You don't know what kind of greatness this kid could have changed the world. So at the end of the day, let's flip the script. Mr. National of the Omega foo. What if that was your son? Don't tell me they wouldn't react differently. It hasn't hit them in the chest that hard yet. And I hope Caleb's family sues the beef stew out of them because they deserve.
I do too. I'm with you. And let me say this, because we got to wrap it up and go to tea.
Okay.
We got to wrap it up and go to tea.
Hit us two ways. Hit us in our stomach and take away our food, or take our coin. What else gets our attention?
But I do agree with you. Look, I don't want to have to compare it to the Boy Scouts. I don't want to have to compare it to the. Let me go here. I don't want to have to compare it to the Bloods and Crips. I don't want to have to compare it to that. Nobody wants to compare it to that. Okay? No, the Divine Nine had an intent. And the further away you have moved from the intent, the further away you have moved from the intent puts you where you are. It is self-inflicted. Society didn't do it. It's self-inflicted. So whatever happens, happens. I mean, it's just like I look at the Catholic Church and the controversy with the Catholic Church. Whatever happens, people look the other way. I'm gonna leave it at that. Tonya B, you ready for tea?
Got my pressure up. Yeah, come on.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sipping the tea with Tonya B.
Good Lord, what you got, Tonya B? Go ahead.
Okay, we got dip it low now. Woosah. And we're gonna go down to the 5,000 Black Baptist churches of Georgia and beyond. And I just was telling you earlier, Tommy B, I said my entertainment news, this is the third week in a row, has been one big obituary. The first week it was Jerry Butler and Gwen McCrae. Then it was Roberta Flack and Chris Jasper. We got Angie Stone. And just this week we lost the man some people call the king of neo soul, Roy Ayers. What's interesting is I did some research earlier this morning, and we know about Bonita Applebaum, we know about Mary J. Blige taking, Everybody Loves the Sunshine, for her, one of her biggest hits. But you got people like almost every rapper, Tupac, Biggie, so many people sampling him. Delight song "Groove Is in the Heart" with Bootsy Collins is a Roy Ayers sample.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's so many things, and he's no longer with us. He leaves a great body of work and catalog, and then, just when you think nobody else was left, and this was Dwayne Wiggins of the Tonys, and Dwayne was considerably younger than, a lot of the other people that died. Most of them were in their 80s, or close to it, and he had been battling cancer, according to the family. And he passed away because when you're in hospice and somebody says, oh, he has a medical issue, we're just taking it one day at a time. When you go to hospice, you're just there to be made comfortable until you go on to glory. So they need to stop playing with people. But, what people don't realize, yes, the Tonys, I think they were, I think before Mint Condition, they were, when you talk about music and bands, they were one of the last bands of the 80s. And then in the 90s, you had Mint. And, amazing catalog. And Dwayne, he dabbled in film with the city of Oakland in the Bay Area. He had the coffee shop. He hosted the Punani Poets, which is probably how he ended up getting divorced. But and then he was very instrumental in the careers of Destiny's Child and Beyonce, India Arie, and even Zendaya. So he did a lot of things behind the scenes, and he had an ear and an eye for talent. And this last tour that the Tonys did, the story was they were supposed to be doing it as their father's last dying wish. But, you know, when you went to the concert, no phones, you had to give it up. Nobody could tape anything. And that was allegedly because they wanted to have this special DVD. But I now believe it was because Dwayne was sick back then. They didn't want it to get out. Because anytime, like, you know, remember we saw Larry Blackman earlier this year having to be helped on and off stage. That's how it got for Dwayne. But during the time he was playing, you know, the adrenaline kicks in and it goes away. So how do you sing songs now like Whatever You Want, just to show us my name is Dwayne? So rest in peace to Dwayne Wade. And I just say, if you really want to honor these people, look at what took them away from us. And even every person that was a fan donated, let's just say $1, you know, to cancer, to Alzheimer's, to you know, cancer and ALS. It would be a lovely thing. So
can I say this, Tonya B? And this, you know, I had a conversation. I was telling you, I had a conversation with Shirley Jones, my neighbor. You know, we were talking about, you know, doing some stuff in 2025, and she had mentioned the fact that she was talking to Angie Stone about potentially doing something in 2025 when she learned about, you know, her untimely death. And one of the things, you know, she brought to my attention that all these legends have died, some of them in their 80s, some of them younger.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, man, because we're losing so many opportunities for concerts among the 90s. We were talking about Jodeci. Jodeci really can't perform anymore.
Again,
Boys to Men barely performing. You know, New Edition barely performing. I mean, you know, these guys are having health issues and they're not giving you the full show because, you know, you never know if some of the members are going to be out. You can go down the list of the 90s superstars and we're losing the opportunities for our old school concerts that a lot of you go to if you're, you know, I live on the South Side, so Stockbridge, like the amphitheater, where you have a lot of these, you know, throwback concerts. A lot of these cats can't perform anymore.
And I look at, I'm from Boston, so always have been, you know, knew of Tavares before they became Tavares. Yeah. But only 2 of them are left performing now.
Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying when it comes down to, okay, and how you understand, how and why you understand, because you go to a lot of these shows. You know, who's going to perform? Think right now, the only, who would you say right now is the top old school performing artist out there?
Solo, you just still got Patty and Shaka and Charlie Wilson working consistently.
Yeah. And they're moving further away from relevancy when it comes down to age.
Charlie's in his 70s, Chaka's in her 70s. And one thing you talk about Angie, you know, there's been an announcement, a star-studded memorial or concert, whatever they want to call it, is going to be taking place in Atlanta. But when they move her body to South Carolina, it'll just be, you know, small, intimate, family type thing. But I mean, there's like Tyler Perry and Kirk Franklin, and I'm like, Yolanda Adams, okay, y'all having a concert. But anyway, it is what it is. But I think it'll be a public
but I got to say this, and I want you to, you know, because I know you got a lot on your plate, move to the next story. But let me say this, it's important. That's why it's so important that we have people who can entertain today. Yeah. But we have all these folks who can't sing, can't do anything on stage, can't write. That's what we're stuck with. Yeah. And I tell you, ultimately, the concert business is going to suffer because we got nobody but Bruno Mars.
That's it, yeah.
Well, and he really ain't ours.
He's not like us. He's not like us. But you know,
he really kind of Zoe Saldana. No, I'm not black.
He's not like us. But you know, that's one thing that Angie was doing. She was trying to she has a song that I play on my show, The Bird Wire. It's called Industry, and it talks about, you know, how to keep your money, how to learn the business. Don't, you know, and this is before the video came out of her learning that Universal had stolen her money. Angie would pour into these young artists, and she did a lot more really behind the scenes than in front of it. If it weren't for Angie, that first D'Angelo album might not even exist.
And you know they got conspiracy theories out there because she's the only one who died.
Okay, so wait, you follow her from the hotel in Alabama. Wait till the accident happened. Wait till she was standing outside the van and then decide to hit her. But you know what? Handle your scandal, people. That's all.
You know what? I watched the X-Files. I've seen it. Go ahead.
You watched what? Scandal?
Scandal.
Olivia Pope, remember they put the
I'm
FBI
sorry.
agent put his
I
hands
loved
on-
Angie, man. I thought she did great stuff,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
hope
just
she
hard to
don't get
believe.
her due.
Go
In
ahead.
the midst of all these people passing away, another R&B singer whose death was overshadowed by the bigger names was Harry Elston. And who was he? I'm so glad you asked. He was a member of the Friends of Distinction. Now, he was 86 years old. You know, they hit the scene, grazing the grass at the gas, baby, can you dig it? Going in circles and check it out. And what's funny that all these songs that they did almost every later on down the road, somebody covered them.
Yeah.
You know, I
Grazing in the
loved
Grass was the
Check It Out,
jam. Yeah.
which was a song that put Tavares on. But remember Love or Let Me Be Lonely? Remember
Yeah,
that?
that's a great song too.
Yeah, and
good
then
stuff.
Jessica Cleaves was in that group, and she left the Friends to go be with Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then she left them. Anyway, let's talk about, here's the dumb donkey of the week. Oh, we got two. The female dumb donkey is Amber Rose, the former girlfriend of Cuckoo Kanye. And
Hey, let me ask you, when is she not? When is she not dumb donkey?
That's true.
Maybe we should just celebrate that.
The only time she wasn't dumb donkey was
Go
never.
ahead, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Never, no, never.
Go ahead.
Now she wants to get back in the news cycle because no one's paying her any attention. So now she's deciding she's going to talk about why Kanye likes his women naked in public because he gets off on it. She's like, I did it and Kim K did it. But don't y'all forget, she's a Trump supporter who also claims that she was at every single puffy freak off since 2009. But she claims she stayed away from the strange room. Okay, I got a bridge in Brooklyn. This is from a girl who went from the poll to the party. So, you know, she's been ostracized and she's been ignored. And now she's just saying whatever she can say to get back in the news cycle so we don't talk about her anymore. The other dumb donkey of this week is Keefe D. Now, he's the man who admitted to killing Tupac Shakur. You know, oh, I did it. Then he got arrested. Then he got his ass beat in jail. Now, all of a sudden, he went on, I think it was on Good Morning America. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, he did a national TV interview. Now he's claiming he's innocent and he didn't do it and he knows who does, and that the authorities have nothing on him. Well, if in fact, why was he boasting about his alleged involvement, in the press, but also he wrote this so-called memoir. So now he's trying to implicate other people, and I think it's just a little too late. And Keefe D, the D stands for dumb. That's all I got.
Yep, I agree.
You know. So one more thing I got is my Celebrity Love and Marriage Chronicles. Okay, Angelina Jolie, you know, she's always been a little out there with it. Well, now she's backing down with the swirl. Figured that one out with her new boyfriend. I am not believing that Serena Williams and Alexis Ohanian, whatever, the husband, that they're breaking up. I just don't get that. I told you, I think last week, how Michael B. Jordan is allegedly expecting a baby with the brunette. And I'll just say the only thing brunette on her is her hair. Fill in the blank on your own.
Yep.
I believe the stories about Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo dating are just to boost Wicked. It made a ton of money, but it has won few awards.
Hey, you know what? I just need her to eat. Okay? I just need her to have a full meal because she's looking horrible. I mean, I get. Yeah, I mean, I get women wanting to maybe do that for the role, but it's gone too far. I mean, both of them. When I see Ariana and when I see Erivo, and I go back and I look at the photos that she did for Harriet and the other movies like Widows, and they're just losing too much weight. Man.
They don't look healthy.
They don't look healthy at all. They look scary.
They're giving me Karen Carpenter tease, okay?
Yes.
Really.
No lie.
Yeah. And I heard that Halle Bailey and her D-list rapper DDG are back together.
And let me stop before anybody emails me. That's not intended to shame. It's intended to say we care about your health.
You know,
we care. I mean, Ariana, I've been a fan of her voice and her acting. She's funny as hell. Yeah. And I just you hate to see people do this to themselves to the point where it becomes an emergency and people have to intervene. Mm-hmm. When it becomes an intervention, it's too late.
Right.
Yeah, and why? You know, at what cost? She's also, it's a shame. Don't come for me because I'm not sending it for anybody. But she's also giving me Karen Carpenter and olive oil tea. Honestly.
Yep. I agree.
Olive oil.
Really.
I agree.
Yeah, that's right.
You got anything else? I got to go off on some stuff. So
okay,
I'm gonna wait till you finish.
Kim K is one of the pass around chicks, And allegedly, when she saw her ex Pete Davidson at the SNL 50, they did a drive-by hookup. But now I understand that she might be with Drake, but that's her type of guy. And I want to say shout out to Keke Palmer. You know, she has 99 jobs. I can't wait to see her movie about the boosters and the movie The Pickup with Eddie Murphy, because she is funny. She and her unemployed baby daddy, Mr. Darius Jackson, apparently got back together, but I don't know why, because he gone off into the military because he didn't have a job anyway. But I want to know what happened to this baby number 2 that was coming. So maybe that was done very, very quietly. And you know, Kiki gonna keep a job. She gonna keep working. I think that is why she got the NAACP Entertainer of the Year. Because no tea, no shade to Cynthia Erivo, but we have known Kiki since she was on Nickelodeon, and we know that she is a triple threat. That's all.
I agree. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, I got to say real quick, Beyond the Gates beat General Hospital in its premiere week, so I gotta give it up to them, and it looks like it's at no point of slowing down. So kudos, because honestly, I didn't think it was going to do as well as it's doing. Not only did it beat General Hospital, but in that time slot, the talk, it's far exceeding the number that was previously there. So kudos to Beyond the Gates. The Black Soap, AKA the Black Soap.
The Jack Turkey Black Soap. But go ahead.
Ratings for the Oscars, y'all, less than expected. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to say this as somebody who loves movies. I love movies. And I've been following movies and the Oscars going back to hell, a goober baby. and I just got to say point blank, it's the movies. It's the movies. Nobody cares about the movies in Best Picture. You know, let me paint a picture for y'all real quick. There was a study done about 2,000 people. Okay. You know, Vi, do you know the movie that won Best Picture this year?
Never heard of it.
You know the name of it?
Nope.
Anora?
Okay, Howard, do you know the name of the Best Picture?
Yeah.
Is it Anora?
A-N.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Anora.
it. Exactly.
Sex worker movie.
Do you know of the 2,000 people, do you know what percentage of the people? And I'm just going to cut to the chase. 3% of the 2,000 people knew the name of the Best Picture this year.
Yeah.
Okay?
I was going to say 2%.
Well, and not only that did it win Best Picture, but it walked away with the majority of the awards, including Best Actress. Wow. Okay, now let me give you a couple more numbers because I want to be crystal clear that I'm not just hating. Okay, in comparison, when you look at percentages, Wicked, 41% of the people surveyed saw it. 21% saw Dune. Y'all heard of Dune too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Dune
it's
is a brand.
It's a brand. It's on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
12% of the 2,000 people said they didn't know any of the movies.
Wow.
on the best picture list. Now, let me tell you, you can add up all the other movie percentages. When you add up all the other movies on that list of Best Picture, percentage-wise, it does not add up to Wicked.
Really?
I'm talking about adding up the percentages of people who said they saw it. It does not add up to that. Time Magazine, I don't know if you read the article, Time Magazine, but Time Magazine says, well, the movies being smaller and independent is a good thing. And I say for Black people, it has not been a good thing. Because the bigger movies, the bigger opportunities, we tend to be a part of that. The indie films tend to be excluding us. The more I look at the opportunities, the only Black movie this year was Nickel Boys, which I did see it. It only earned $2 million. It barely got distribution this year, barely. And you know why it made it? You know why it made in Best Picture? I can tell you. Brad Pitt owns the company that produced it. So if Brad Pitt had not been a part of it, do you think the Nickel Boys would have had an opportunity?
No. Would it have even been made?
Right. And final note, and I'm going to say this, because people need to truly understand. I know a lot of people are saying, F the Oscars, F this, but I got to say, these are your movies. The platform, the Oscars, the Grammys, all these big opportunities are for our people who struggle in the industry to be recognized. But Dune and Wicked made $1.4 billion, okay? When you add up the money made for all the other Best Picture movies, okay, what did I say, 1.4 billion for Wicked and Dune? 414 million.
Really?
Wow.
Less than less than 30%.
Well, to me, Oscars always been that way. They always been a bunch of movies and no majority of folks they never seen or heard of.
I disagree, because here's the thing. If you go back, if you look at, go to Wikipedia, look at Best Picture. Look at the Best Pictures before 2011. Okay, if you recall, The Godfather, well, I'm talking about going back to when we grew up. Godfather, French Connection, Godfather 2, Rocky. A lot of the movies were big movies. Not only were they seen or nominated, but they also were actually seen in theaters. The problem that we're seeing right now is a lot of these movies are released and become Oscar nominees before they even get in the fucking theaters.
Yep. Or released in this country too. That's why we're seeing a thing.
Yeah.
So we got, I mean, you know, and I know a lot of, well, fuck the Oscars, but a lot of folks who are employed in this industry look like us. And they depend on that Oscar and that opportunity to grow and be the next opportunity. So when you hear the tragic stories of Angela Bassett, or the fact that Halle Berry, we haven't had a Best Actress since Halle Berry won for that horrible movie, Monsters Ball, that all she did was, you know what?
Right.
Make me feel good.
Very wide.
Yeah.
So I just got to say, it's, you know, I'm just saying, come on, we could do better. So I think this whole independent movement with movies is keeping a lot of people out.
Same thing in music, though, if you think about it.
Yeah,
all,
I agree.
all the
100.
people,
I agree.
you know,
100.
Beyonce's an indie. Indie used to be a niche, remember? And even in movies, it was a niche. Now Beyonce's indie. Alicia Keys is indie. Shaka Khan is indie. Will Downing's indie. And then you have these artists that are on the come up that are true indies, but they can't compete with the indie Shaka Khan or the indie Patty or the indie Charlie Wilson, you know, or even the indie Angie Stone. They can't compete on the same level as those people, because they're indie, yes, but they're already an established brand.
Yeah, but I think on the movie side, and I'm gonna say this, Tonya B, on the movie side, indie used to mean inclusive. It doesn't mean that anymore.
I think
because when you look at a movie like Anora, or you look at, you know, some of these other Best Pictures, you know, nobody knows what these movies, The Brutalist, you know, some of these movies are indie, some of them are by major studios, and I'm not a big advocate. I'm not sitting here screaming we got to go to the big studios. We just need to make sure that the movies that are being nominated are movies that have some kind of consensus, and it's not ruled by the critics and the trade magazines. Because right now, it comes down to the trade magazines for your consideration, and it comes down to the critics. And the critics have never cared about what we like. And I'm here to tell you, and Vi, I want you to go to Wiki, and I want you to just pull up Best Picture. And I want you to see where there's that line of demarcation where you just start to see films that don't make sense.
Oh, I've always felt that way.
No, but let me ask you though, when you were growing up, and I know I can say when I was growing up, and in the 70s, even in the 80s and the 90s, some of the early 90s, I can look at the Best Picture and say, okay, that was a good movie. But when you got to this film, The Artist, that was that black and white French movie that won, nobody had a clue what that movie was. The Artist.
When the last movie, what the hell is that?
What about Parasite?
I still ain't seen it. But I still ain't seen it.
You know, I will say, at least with Parasite had more of a following than some of these other movies, like Anora. I think Moonlight. When Moonlight had such a small niche following, to the point where, you know, we got to get back. It doesn't have to be, you know, where we're chasing a lot of these movies that are big but not good. Got to find a balance between big and good. And I think a lot of big, because I do think, and I'm not a big advocate, I'm not sitting here screaming for Wicked. You know, I think Wicked deserved more than what it got. And I'm not this big theater buff who's into Wicked, but I think based on the fact that the movie performed well at the box office, critically, the movie performed well, performance-wise, the movie had good acting, and it still only got what, one award? That was for the costumes
Yeah,
and
that
production.
was a brother that won that.
Yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
what else? You know, just like people talk about the same thing, not the same thing, but just a parallel with the Grammys. And it's not so much who put out the best record, it's who had the strongest lobby. Just like they lobby in Congress, they lobby, with the movies. And that's why, Tommy B, what are you voting for? Well, let me give this ballot to my kid. I didn't go to movies this year. But this, the whole, the system of, just like with music, it used to be really, really good. And movies used to be really, really good. Like, if you made a movie like The Godfather now, who do you think would see it?
I agree.
It
I agree.
wouldn't
But
measure
I'm
up.
gonna say this. But I'm gonna say this, Tonya B, and I'm gonna step off my soapbox for a minute. The Oscars used to be an award that was celebrated, and I can remember this as somebody who spent more time every time a new movie came out, I was there, and I tried to get it the first week out as a movie buff, movie lover. Okay. Then Marvel came, and they just started spending a whole lot of money, putting people in the green screen, which we know, a lot of these movies are pretty much in a big room on a soundstage with a green screen, and now Marvel has started to fall out of fashion from people. So the Marvel movies aren't as big as, or as good as they used to be. But my point in saying that is, I'm saying back in the day, I'm just saying there was a time when you watched 30 Days of Oscar on TCM, or you watched some of these big Oscar celebrations where you could look at the list of movies and say, oh, that was a hell of a movie. Now, Honora, what? Huh? I do know they said the F word over 400 times.
Wow.
It's like but back then, Tommy B, you went to a theater, but you knew the movies. We're all sitting here saying now, was it Amora or Honora? I didn't see that.
Right.
I didn't see that movie with Adrian Brody. I really didn't even see the movie with Zoe Saldana. It's like, anymore, like we used to have to go to the theater and, it was an event, it was a thing that we did. Now, like with this last, what was it? The movie with Anthony Mackie, is that Dune?
Mackie was just in Captain America.
America.
Okay, that franchise, this is it for that. But the same day it went in the theater, it was on streaming. So what does that tell you? It's
I'm gonna say this: if they keep doing what they're doing to try to push these movies on the general public, the box office is not going to get any better. I mean, of course, the box office has been coming back since COVID.
Right.
You're coming back to at least you're improving over COVID levels. But but the way it really used to be, where you truly had a major box office, and now really the box office numbers can't be compared, because when you look at the cost of living increases or the cost of a ticket, of course they can make more money now because they charge more.
Yeah.
What, Tommy B?
$5 a ticket.
The whole thing. Like I said, the event of going to the movies.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No, see, I went down to Atlantic Station at Regal.
Yeah.
They don't even have a box office. Remember how you used to get in line and you go buy the ticket early and the line would be wrapped around the corner and it was sold out? Doesn't happen anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Hey, you okay? I gotta take a breath. But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. We're just gonna keep it moving because we've been running long on the show. Let's go ahead and do
The political roundtable.
Yeah, just what you need for your blood pressure. Some politics.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not gonna play the Boykin clip, but I am gonna make the Boykin clip, the DEI clip, available online. You can scan our QR code. I think he does an excellent job in basically giving us a 3-minute lesson on what DEI is. I think he does it better than anybody. So I will make sure his video, as of the taping of this podcast, is available. You can scan the QR code, go to our links in our bio, and it'll be there. But I do want to play. Let me get this clip. I want to play a clip, and this was from XM. It is. You're familiar with Dr. Jason Johnson? He would fill in for Joy Reid on the readout. Kind of a I don't want to say heavy set, linebacker-ish kind of guy. Wears glasses, very well thought out, has great takes. But I want to play this. And let's give it a quick minute. Here we go.
I want to be absolutely candid about this. I don't know Stephen A. Smith at all personally. I interviewed him maybe once or twice years ago when I was working for The Root. Stephen A. Smith is a quintessential example of the difference between being influential and being known, right? Stephen A. Smith is a very well-known person. When he speaks, people pay attention. He has no real influence. I want to make that clear. He has no real influence in politics. He desperately wants to have influence in politics. He desperately wants to be considered amongst the same spaces as a Roland Martin or a Bakari Sellers or an Angela Rye or a Tiffany Cross or Abby Phillips. He wants to be in that category. He wants to think that he can actually move the needle. And he is being platformed, unfortunately, by a lot of less than informed journalists who are bored and looking for someone who's making loud noises. But let us be clear about who and what he is at this particular point, which is just a loudmouth person who is desperate to be put into different spaces. That's the first thing, right? That's not an insult. Hey, if he hears this, fine, he can. I don't really care. He doesn't have any influence on my life. There's not a politician alive in America who's making their decisions based on what Stephen A. Smith says. Even if Eric Swalwell decides to bring him to Washington, D.C., I've met Eric Swalwell. I'm a fan of his. Eric, don't waste your time, because Stephen A. Smith doesn't represent anybody other than himself and the small number of Republicans and Republican acolytes who are friends of his. And that's the second thing I want to point out. This man is best friends with Chris Christie. He is a Republican. Mm-hmm. Stephen A. Smith is a Republican. Mm-hmm. Look at the pictures of him and that crazy human rights abusing police chief, right? Look at all the opportunities that he always takes to attack the Democratic Party. And the issue that I have with him, besides the fact that he's not informed on any of these issues whatsoever, before I even go back to the mistakes he's made in journalism, before I go back to his well-documented history of inappropriate, tacky, and crass comments about women, in particular black women, before I even get into any of that, I will highlight the fact that Stephen A. Smith is a Republican, and he is too much of a coward, and I will say coward, intellectually and personally, to just admit that on the air. Because the moment that he says he's a Republican, then he can no longer play the game he's playing now, which is, oh, I'm just a Democrat who's disappointed, and now people will pay attention to me. Just come out.
That reminds
just come
me
out,
of
Stephen A.
something.
Smith, and say you're a Republican.
That reminds
it's
me
the
of
grift. It's the grift.
It is the grift. Mm-hmm. It is the grift. I'm going to start with you, Howard, and then I'll go to you, Tonya B. and Vi. Howard?
I hadn't heard that, but that's very interesting. You know, I don't listen to Stephen A. Smith. You and I talked about this. I talk about it with my pops because he listens to Stephen A. I just can't take anyone yelling at me for half an hour for no apparent reason. But when it comes to the influence and being well known, I think this guy is spot on. He's just well known. He brings nothing to the table. He's really shallow, nothing deep dive. Even when it comes to some of his sports takes, they're not a deep dive at all. They're really shallow and low-hanging fruit. And I don't even know what even brought this up about him being political or running. I heard something on the radio, on the sports talk radio. I listened about him running for president. What? Who? Why?
Oh, well, let me. You know, it's in my opinion, it's a plant. He's like a plant.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's in the Republican Party's best interest to control the narrative, and this is another opportunity for that whole movement to control the narrative of who Democratic leadership is. That's a big part of it. So, you know, somebody like Stephen A., and he's just kind of playing along, like,
exactly.
Oh, I don't know why these people want me, you know. But here's the thing: I am hopeful, and I played this because I am hopeful that the $100 million deal he got this year from ESPN squashes that political ambition that, quite frankly, takes the focus off somebody who should be running.
Exactly.
So hopefully the $20 million he's getting paid annually, I'm happy for him.
Right.
I'm glad he's getting it, because now go focus on your real job. Mm-hmm. You're doing a bad job at it.
Right.
Your takes are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You're still running after Aaron Rodgers, the Yankees, the Knicks, and every New York and big market team. But still, I'd rather him be wrong there than saying he's a legitimate candidate for a party that I happen to be voting for.
Right.
Oh,
Right or wrong.
Wait, you know he's running for dog catcher. Oh.
Right or wrong. You know what? Let me say this. If he was serious, Howard, you know what he would do?
What's that?
Run for mayor. If he were serious about making a difference in the lives of people, he would run for mayor of New York. But you know what? He knows better.
Right.
Because you know what would happen if he said he's running for mayor? Because there is an opening.
Right.
There's an opportunity. But you know why he wouldn't do it? You know, anybody want to guess why he wouldn't say he's running for mayor of New York? Tonya B, I'll go to you.
Andrew Cuomo. But anyways, go ahead.
Right. Well, yeah.
Oh, but even beyond that, Vi, you want to take a shot?
Man, I just think he don't.
No. Why he wouldn't run for mayor of New York?
He don't
take a quick shot, then I'll come to you.
He's a very private man.
Well, I'm okay. That's not what I was going to say. But I'm coming back to you.
Okay.
You know why he's not going to run for mayor of New York? The same reason why Trump wouldn't run for mayor of New York, because New Yorkers see through his bullshit.
Right, he can't win.
They would not vote for his ass. They would call his shit out day one. He knows that if he's going out nationally, somebody's going to believe his ass.
Right.
Because he's got more opportunities in these 50 states.
Right.
Let him try to run in New York. I tell you, you know what? I would say to him, dude, okay, you want to change people's lives. New York is in crisis right now. New York is in a leadership crisis. Run for mayor of New York.
Can't do it.
I bet he wouldn't do it. And I'm going to go to you. Thanks, Howard. I'm going to go to you, Tonya B, and then bye.
No, I'm saying no. If that were the case, though, it's like he would be, you might as well just tell Andrew Cuomo here, we're giving you back the keys. He can't. And like the people, New Yorkers are, in different cities, they're of a different ilk, if you will, but I think there might be enough. You never know. You can't ever say anything, but because we know that the lowest common denominator of intelligence and T put 45, 47 back in.
Agreed. That's why he can win nationally, because the lowest common denominator across the board that fits into the national.
Right.
But the local, he ain't gonna run in New York. Go ahead.
No, he couldn't run. He could not even run to me. He could not run on it. Forget a city level. He could not run for, like I said, dog catcher. He could not even run on a state platform, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what you got? Country Commentator, what you got?
Well, I used to be a big fan of Stephen A., but I'm not, because of stuff he's been saying. I mean, when I saw him going Fox that word, Sean Hannity, that's your friend. Then I heard him say he regret voting for Kamala. I'm going to do. Why you felt the need to say something like that? I mean, that's just stuff because he wants to be in the political realm, but I call him an undercover Republican. You say you're not Democratic. You say you're independent, but the stuff, how they say, you don't believe in racism, but you do racist shit.
Yeah.
You're not a Republican, but you do Republican. You say Republican shit. So that's what I'm going. I just, he claimed that. I said, but you say Republican shit. You say you don't like Trump, but you vote for Kamala Harris. Who are you going to vote for then?
If he calls him right now, when they come to the White House,
it's like he wish he had a vote for him.
Right.
I mean, he says something. He's to me, he's like wishy-washy, because he tried to call Sean Hannity for some of his stuff. Well, I thought we let Sean Hannity get away with.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I agree with you, Vi, and I'm going to say this. Look at, like Dr. Johnson said, look at the company he keeps.
Right.
When you look at News Nation, and you look at Bill O'Reilly, the fact that he's doing these things with Bill Riley and Chris Cuomo,
Sean Hannity, he be on these shows.
I know, I agree.
Really?
But I didn't play this just to dog Stephen A. Okay, I'm just happy that I'm hopeful that the $100 million that ESPN gives him comes with a clause that says stay out of politics. Now, you know what? Here's the deal. He can make commentary all he wants. But when it comes down to saying I'm running for office, no, dude. No.
That's why he has his own show. When he's on ESPN, he's not going politics. But when he gets on his own public podcast, the Stephen A. podcast, he can say what he wants. And he say he did that for a reason, because you control me on ESPN, but I do my Stephen A. show. I bought it. It's my name. It's all me, 100%. I can say what I want to say.
And you know what? And Vi, let me say this. I'm not a shut up and dribble shut up and throw a football guy. I'm not one of those people. I think everybody has a right and an opportunity to do and say, to express themselves. The issue I have is people planting you in the movement, which is a very serious situation that we're in. There's a void. There's a leadership void in the Democratic Party right now.
And they like him for a reason.
And you know, and I'm one of the biggest critics because everybody can see it except for them. You know, and that's a problem for me. You know, especially when you look at the fact that you know, just this week, you know, when you got people singing "We Shall Overcome," and you know, and they basically had, you know, when you heard "We Shall Overcome," that came from people who were disenfranchised, people who didn't have a seat at the table, people who had dogs turned on them, hoses turned on them, police batons beating them down in the streets. They didn't, not people who had a seat at the table 4 years straight prior to this, and people who are basically, for the most part, the majority of them are millionaires, are basically have a net worth of $1 million or more.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to be singing "We Shall Overcome." You need to be singing "I Have a Strategy," which you don't. That's the problem. They don't have a strategy. You know, doing the what do you call it on TikTok? Doing the, you know what do you call it, the Dragon Ball Z, Mortal Kombat. We're at war. What are y'all doing?
They're not like us. Mm.
So my point is, you know, I'm just hopeful that Stephen A. now
goes away
with all the money. The negotiations are over.
Yeah,
he got his contract. Move on. Go ahead, Bob.
He's gonna get loud. He's not gonna get loud. He's gonna get louder. He's gonna get.
You think he's gonna get louder saying he's running for president?
When Stephen A. says that, he's not serious about it. But he's always said he wants to go into politics, but not as a politician. He wants to be a political speaker. You know, someone who talks about politics. That's his dream.
But you heard what you heard what Dr. Jason said, and he's spot on.
Jason.
I mean, the reason I played that is because Dr. Johnson is spot on.
He is spot on, but he's trying. His goal is to get what Dr. Jason said he's not.
He's trying too hard.
He's trying to get it. That is it, because he's made it in the sports world. He knows that he's conquered the sports world. Now he's trying to move on to the politics world. So he's not going to be quiet. He's gonna get.
You know what? I don't care about him being quiet. He can talk all he wants.
He's gonna talk.
My thing is, and I saw the polling. Okay, the legitimate polling says really only about 2% are mentioning him. Okay, only about 2%. It's not that significant. Now some people are making up their own polls. And basically, you know, whatever it is online is saying he's higher. But when it comes down to a national Gallup, the polls that matter, he's barely hitting 1%, 2%. But the fact that he does show up, I'm just saying that I hope the money gives me hope that he's not saying I'm giving up sports, because he would have to be. Honestly, if he's going to run, he needs to do it because he's a broadcaster. He's on air. He can't do it and still have that kind of platform. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Real quick, so before we can wrap, one last on this, and then we're gonna wrap.
Well, like I said, his goal is to be a politician, political news person.
He can be a pundit. I'm not saying he can't be a pundit. He wants to be a pundit
because he's reached his goal in the sports world, and he's always, because I listen to his talk show sometimes. I haven't listened to it in a while now because I'm really not a big fan of it no more. But he's always said, but that's his goal. He said, he don't want to be pitching on the sports.
Let me ask you, when was the last time he was right on sports?
Well, Stephen A. doesn't try to be right on sport like Stephen A. said.
Okay. You said it. Thank you, Bob.
He does.
That's all. I don't need no more. All right, y'all. Here we go.
Okay, then.
Wrap it up. This is the G Podcast.
All right, y'all. Scan the QR code for our logo, social media, for our links. The links also have all the social media pages. You can choose the people poll. If you want to leave us a voice message like Vi was about to explain, why Stephen A can be wrong all the time. And I promise I'll play back the best reason why Stephen A can be wrong all the time. Don't forget to support the podcast however way you want. Doesn't matter. Go to Spotify. We are a Spotify podcast. You can search us at This Is the G Podcast. Follow the podcast. Subscribe. Final shout outs. Tonya B, you got any shout outs?
Lucy McBath, listen, don't do it. Jasmine Crockett, shout out to you. My favorite new album is Al Green's Greatest Hits. Catch that when you can. And support the podcast, listen to the Bird Wire, and fight the power, people. It's about to get real.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, and Tonya B, if you scan the QR code, the Bird Wire episodes are there. You can go there and you can download the most recent episodes. The links are there. Howard, what you got, man?
Hey, this month we can do the Hitman Pettis Bridge Bloody Sunday, late March. I think it's March 28th or something like that. Google the date. But
well, this weekend is actually, as we tape this weekend, is the anniversary, the 60th of Bloody Sunday.
Exactly, right. So they're having an event over in Alabama at the Edmonds Pettis Bridge. If you can participate, excellent. If not, support any cause that may support things that the Edmonds Pettis Bridge represent. That's what I have. Thanks for the invitation again.
Hey man, thank you for coming on. Yes. We appreciate you. Hey Vi, you want to finish your defense of Stephen A?
No, I'm done with Stephen A. I'm done with Stephen A. I'm not defending. I want to give a shout out to my Smurf brother Gary, my friend brother Ernest, and his beautiful wife Katie. I went to Mardi Gras from Mobile, and they took very good care of me and my friend Bree. It was great. So if you have not ever been to the Mobile Mardi Gras, you're missing out. It's great.
Because Vi is still recovering as we speak, as I'm watching him
one eye open
fall off the microphone.
Yes,
go ahead, Tonya B.
No, I just said I got one eye open. That's all I said.
He's had one eye open all show.
I just noticed.
But I'm gonna be nice to him this time. Let that shit happen again.
Ooh.
Hey y'all, I gotta say, and I'm a shout. I already did my big shout outs, but I gotta say, Democrats, y'all, and you know what? If you got any doubts that I'm a Stephen A, if you have any doubts, I will show you my voting record. I have no problem with it because my voting record is clear in terms of who I vote for. I have no issues. But it's time for strategy, y'all. Stop being, I use the word performative, okay? And that it means related to the nature of just being dramatic and artistic and performing. We don't need that right now. We really need people. We need strategy, and we shall overcome. Like I was telling you, it's not reserved for you.
Yeah,
it's not a song that you have already overcome.
Exactly.
You have a seat at the table.
Yes.
You were in power for 4 years.
Yes.
You had an opportunity at the beginning of those 4 years
to
take care of January 6th.
You blew it.
You had an opportunity to extend the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And add more to the Supreme Court. You didn't do it. So you waited, and now here's where we are. Okay? So you ain't got shit to overcome.
Real quick, Thomas, there's an interesting article in The Economist. Democrats are struggling to respond to Trump. I shared that with you. You should check it out. Tonya B, I absolutely.
I looked at it, but but let me say this. I'm gonna say this, Howard. They don't know.
Right. That's my point. I think they don't have a strategy. To your point, they don't have anything.
They're really
ironed out. They're just kind of going with the wind, man. So yeah, I got
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate you have a lot of people. For a lot of folks, it's been a grift for years. And when times like this happen, and this is not just on the Democratic side, it's on the Republican side too. It's on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
When desperate times calls for desperate measures, they have no desperate measures to respond. They don't have it. It's going to take, and let me be very clear. It is going to take a non-politician to do what needs to be done. We don't need to be looking within the ranks. We don't need to be, now when I say non-politician, that doesn't mean your boy, CC. It doesn't mean your ESPN boy over there. I know he's not your boy, but I'm just saying, I don't mean that. I mean, even if it comes down to somebody like Mark Cuban, and you know what? I'm not a massive fan of Mark Cuban, but I will say this about Mark Cuban. He understands the issues. He understands healthcare. He can follow him on Blue Sky, follow him on Twitter. He's constantly responding to the moments at hand. And I'm not here advocating for Mark Cuban, but it's going to take somebody who's already got money, who's not in it for the grift. That's one. And it's going to take somebody who's smart enough to understand the dynamics and understands what it takes. It's going to need, we're going to need somebody loud. We don't need anybody soft-spoken who can't yell over the room, for lack of a better term. I'm going to say that, okay? All right, y'all. Appreciate you again. Definitely. Howie, thank you so much, man, for coming on.
Thank you,
Thank
Howie.
you. Good to see you, Miss B. Vi, you know we're always down.
Tonya B.
Hey.
He's no longer the country commentator. He's One Eye Vi. Thank you.
Then we can go next week.
One Eye Vi.
That's the best.
And with that, y'all, episode 259 is in the can. Have a great week, y'all. Peace.
Why?
Power to the people.
Power. What? Power. Al Green, break the thing.
Fight the one eye.
Why y'all picking on me, man? What did I do?
You've been listening to This is the G Podcast. And This is the G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.